We are super excited today to share with you some of our client stories because we think you're going to relate.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Our clients are regular people. So, right.
And we're regular people.
We're regular people too. Yeah.
Having a conversation.
Right.
And our clients come to us because they want to feel differently. They want to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And these clients that we want to talk about specifically took on some habits. We were in groups with them. So let me first say that off the bat, because they're in our groups. And they took on some habits that they were resisting starting because they didn't want to have to give up something or have to do something that was kind of a pain in the butt, blah, blah, blah. But each one of these examples, they took on these habits and are happy to have these habits now. And it's not because they're easy or anything like that. It's just much better than they thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about resistance and getting through it.
Yeah.
And we have these client stories because we want you to understand that everybody wants to feel better, first of all.
Yeah.
And the other thing is accountability can be a huge driver for change. Yeah. And that's what we do as health and wellness coaches is help drive change to feel better.
Yeah. We keep each other accountable. We're each other's coaches. And within our groups, everybody's keeping everybody accountable, which is really nice. So it's not just us.
Yeah. So these are some epiphanies that have happened. So one of these women was for about a year exercising regularly.
Right.
They were doing it every day and then randomly not doing it. But her whole day was kind of off. Right. Her whole day was just kind of off because of when she was actually doing her movement.
Well, she was letting her life kind of dictate if she had time to do it.
Oh, that's correct.
Right. And she has kids. So of course it got thrown off. I mean, life gets in the way when we don't have a set schedule or if the schedule doesn't seem that important to us or whatever else. So
yeah.
And
so over time in the group, it was uncovered that she had been doing this now, I guess maybe she was doing it for about 6 months or almost a year. And she really loved it. Like she was falling in love with moving her body. And one day she said, this is just, it's not working. I'm so frustrated. I keep not working out because of these other things. And we said, what would happen if you moved it up?
Yeah.
And she said, oh, no way. I can't get up that early.
Yeah, because we were suggesting she started exercising before her kids were awake.
Right.
And her first reaction was like, no way.
No way. And we had just talked about language. And she said, I can't. And we were like, huh. She goes, oh, that's my story, that I can't get up early.
Yeah.
And it was such an epiphany for her. And she said, I'm trying it tomorrow. I'm going to get up earlier and I'm going to get my movement in before the kids get up.
Right.
And her whole life completely changed.
Yeah. And she does. She wakes up early every morning now and works out regularly and nothing has gotten in her way.
No.
Yeah.
And she's happier and feels stronger in her body. And she shows up now a little bit differently for her kids. And she's a upgraded version, of her beautiful self.
Yeah. Because it's not just the benefit of working out, but it's like her own time before the kids get up and then it's out of the way. How great does that feel when you're working out and you don't have to think about it for the rest of the day? So there's so many benefits to it and she's loving it. So every once in a while she still brings it up like that was the best thing ever. Switching my schedule. So
she truly felt empowered by it too, because it was just a mini question, a mini moment of saying that she had more control than her story.
Yep.
Really
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. So we have another client too who struggled with. She would look at her news feed. She would scroll her news feed. She would scroll in the morning. She would scroll at night. It was something that she felt like she needed to read and she needed to be connected that way to understand what was going on. But at the same time, it was not serving her because you know, when you look at your news feed, it can depress you a lot of times. They don't always put out great news. So
right. And it really, she felt like she was having this, it was an addictive behavior, and she felt bad in her body and her mind because she was doing it so often. And when she first came to group, she named that as one of her biggest struggles. And so instead of starting there, she decided to start in all these other places.
Right. Yeah. She's setting up routines in the morning, setting up different habits that she could do. They were small, doable habits. And so they were successes because they were small enough for her to do.
Yep.
And so she created these wins by creating these small doable habits at first, before she said, okay, I think I'm ready to maybe do something with this newsfeed scrolling, which was keeping her up late at night too. That was one of the biggest parts of it. So
because after a while, she figured out that her sleep was creating this ripple effect of not making the best food choices for herself.
Right.
So it's really an interesting, you know, we're a big web.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Right. So she first started by putting some boundaries on her newsfeed scrolling. She wasn't going to say, I'm getting rid of it completely, because that wasn't realistic, you know? So she started putting boundaries on it, and she was saying, I won't look at my newsfeed after 10 o'clock at night. And just starting there, it worked. And she realized, wow, that was easy. And it was success because it was easy. And before you know it, a couple of weeks later, she had made those boundaries even tighter, and she had stopped doing it, I think, in first thing in the morning.
That's right.
And so her newsfeed scrolling has diminished to very
Dramatic.
little. It's not that she's not doing it anymore, but it's not a huge part of her life anymore. And she's so much happier because of it.
It was like a perceptible burden was being lifted each week as she said, I did it, and it's feeling good. And she really connected with her body sensations shifting completely.
Yeah.
Really, really cool win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this next story is about a woman who, you know, as health and wellness coaches, we talk about everything. I mean, everything with clients. And so, because everything either nourishes us or depletes us on some level, right? And so this one person wasn't happy in her work environment anymore. It was draining to the point of feeling sick and
dreading every day.
Dreading it.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see her continue to get clarity about that, because she hadn't realized how much it was pulling her back.
Right. And she had a retirement date set, which was going to be about 4 years in the future. And there was something about pension, like there was the target was, there was a reason for that target. And so she had it in her mind, that's when I will retire. I will stick it out for another 4 years. But every day was drudgery for her. It was misery. And it disrupted her schedule, her eating habits, her sleep. It really was not a good place to be.
It was toxic for her.
Yeah. It wasn't always that way.
No, it hadn't been that way for years and years. Just for her at this time, it had become that for her.
Right.
And we just said in group one day, like all of us were like, well, what would happen if you retire this year? She goes, what?
Right.
So she came in to the group the next week and she said, I started the ball rolling with my retirement. And her, again, lifted her happiness, her joy, her just like her whole outlook on these last few months of her work schedule were different.
Yeah. I mean, the difference between her before and after, it's like a light was shining on her afterwards. Like it was like literally like a big weight was lifted, and she came in and there wasn't this heavy energy anymore. It was like this, just like a little bit lighter and happier and big time. So.
And it had been something that she just hadn't thought of.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love that about our groups, because there's one thing where we're trained to ask questions and to ask certain kinds of questions, of course. But the group members aren't. And sometimes things are so obvious to some people who aren't involved. So because they're objective. And this question didn't come from us. It came from, I think, a couple of the other group members, and they were just like, well, why aren't you retiring earlier? And it was just that simple question. And it's this support within the group that it wouldn't have, I don't know that would have happened, because I had been counseling with her. I've been coaching with her one-on-one. And she had told me she's going to retire in 4 years. So I kind of accepted that for what it was. And we were working together to make that the best situation. But a group member challenged her another way.
That's right. That's right.
So that's how that worked. And she's happier. She's retired now and happy.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And we're still working with her because her journey is still evolving.
Right.
And that's been kind of fun too, to see her in her next phase.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So this last client that we have, who's in this same group actually, decided, I think it was last January, to do, right. I think it was called a dry January, I believe.
Yes.
Right. So she decided that she wasn't happy with her drinking wine every night or every other night or whatever it was. She just felt like she didn't want to do it for a month. So let me take a break. She was very social. She's a very social person. She had lots of friends and going out, and I guess she felt like she didn't want to have as many alcoholic drinks as she was. I don't think it was a problem of addiction or anything like that. I don't want to announce that, but it was just a matter of like, I just need to let go of that. I think it's contributing to my weight gain. I'm not feeling like I'm sleeping well. There was a lot of things connected to it.
Yeah.
So dry January.
So she decided dry January, and guess what is in January for her? It was her birthday. And she's like, what am I going to do? And we were like, I don't know. Do you want to go out with your friends and enjoy a cocktail, or do you not want to? And she's like, well, I don't want to. And we were like, okay, could you go out and not drink? And she's like, I've never thought of that.
Right.
And, sometimes things are obvious and sometimes they're just not obvious at all, because of our environment, our story, our rituals that we have, our family history, and it's simply, being in a safe space, having conversation and having it kind of unfold in this way.
Right.
And fast forward, she's going to come up soon to an anniversary of, a year soon.
Right.
At the time of this recording.
Right.
So,
and for her, it wasn't about it. She realized that you can celebrate, you can do all kinds of things without having that drink in your hand. And for her, it was another weight was lifted, and she's really enjoying it. So she realized it's something she didn't need to have and she didn't want to have. And just as an aside, some weight came off.
Yeah.
I mean, she's doing other things as well, but that was probably it contributed to her extra weight that she didn't want to have on her body. And so it helped a lot, because cocktails do.
Yeah. And her sleep is a little bit better. She's still working on that one, but
that's right. The biggest part is she's still going out. She's still going out. She's still having a good time, and it didn't affect her social life in any way that she really thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And
so all of these women had some resistance to these ideas at first, or they were locked in a certain way and hadn't really thought differently. And that is part of what we do as health and wellness coaches, is help people look at things maybe through a different kind of lens.
That's right. Yeah. And a different perspective.
Yeah.
So, but groups, especially because it's not only our eyes, it's a few other sets of eyes too, and a few other sets of experiences, and that other people can relate to as well, because they're going through struggles and things like that. Yeah. It's amazing what happens in the groups, because people are just simply relating to each other and supporting each other and holding each other accountable.
Yep.
So doing groups is one of our favorite things in the world, for sure.
Yeah, it is. Some people are made out for groups. Some people aren't. We've got a couple of one-on-one clients who had originally thought that a group would be good for them. And soon they just realized very quickly that they weren't made out for the group. Right. So we do one-on-one. coaching as well.
Absolutely.
So if any of those ideas resonated for you, we encourage you to play around with them, question some of the habits that you have, and see if you could tweak it. And if you would like some accountability, please check us out. Go to our website and look for the groups and see when the next one is coming up, and it just might be for you. And all of our groups are hybrid as well. So we do Zoom and in person,
right.
Both. They're hybrids. So you can be wherever you want to be in the world and still join us for our group.
And we do. We have group members who are all over the world. So
literally,
that's really cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
So thanks. If something resonated here for you, we welcome you to have you share it with your friends and family. Oh, did I say I'm Wendy?
Oh, and I'm Debbie
of Nourish Coaches. Thanks for being with us, and we wish you a beautiful week.